Honorable members will be led by the Our Father prayer by our newest member from Golden. You know it?
Our Father,
Yeah.
all heads bowed. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Fred Mitchell, Gladys Hannah Martin, Alfred Sayers, Dr. Michael Darville, Clay Sweeting, Keith Bell, Wayne Monroe, Joe Beth Colby Davis, Ginger Moxie, Mario Oleg, Jomo Campbell, Basil McIntosh, Miles LaRoda, Pia Glover Roll, Lisa Ramming, Zane Lightbourne, Dr. Hubert Minnis, Miles Strawn, John Pinder, Marcus Roll, Leon Lundy, Kirk Cornish, Wade Watson, Leonardo Lightbourne, Leslie M. Miller Bryce, Leroy Major, Sylvanus Petty, Mikhail Bonnaby, Michael Pintard, James Quady Thompson, Aram Lewis, Shannon Dawn Cartwright, Adrian Gibson, Adrian White, Kingsley Smith, Darren Pickstock.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Madam Speaker, just as a matter of housekeeping, it is the intent to complete the sitting this afternoon at 4:45. If we are not completed the agenda and the debate on the resolution, it would be our intent to suspend to tomorrow. If we are finished, then we will adjourn to tomorrow.
Thank you, honorable member. We will now go down to the order of business. Introduction and swearing in of new members. Laying of documents by ministers.
No laying of documents.
Statement and communication by ministers.
No statement and communication.
Communications by the clerk. Messages from the Governor General. Messages from the Senate. Messages from the governor. Messages. Motion for leave of absence, leave to resign, seat in new writs. Forgive me, I forgot my eyes today, so I'm seeing all sorts of things. Presentation of petitions. Presentation of reports of committees. Adoption of reports of committees. First reading of bills.
No first reading of bills.
Thank you, honorable member. Second reading committee of bills.
No second reading of bills.
Thank you, honorable member. Committee of the whole House. Third reading and passing of bills.
No third reading of bills.
Thank you, honorable member. Consideration of Senate amendments. Resolutions. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Central and South Eleuthera.
They print out the college. Afternoon, Madam Speaker.
Good afternoon.
I was going to start the debate by saying this should be a non-contentious bill or resolution, and I think the opposition agrees with me because they're not here.
Yes, sir. That's true.
So, I can do it quick. Huh? Huh? All right. So, Madam Speaker, I rise today on behalf of the good people of Central and South Eleuthera concerning an important road safety realignment project along the West Bay Street corridor, specifically in the area commonly known as Rock Point. This resolution, Madam Speaker, supports the government's approval for a road rerouting and full alignment of the existing West Bay Street roadway at a location that is currently unsafe and vulnerable to flooding, particularly where a new development requires a right turn lane to be introduced. Persons who drive this road during heavy rainfall understands the amount of flooding that occurs in the area. Madam Speaker, I have two photos here where These cars look like they
Wow.
not driving, but trying to float like a boat. But this is the extent of flooding that happens here in this road corridor. I don't know if you could put that down there. But these are one of the reasons why this realignment is necessary. But this roadway at a specific location presents engineering challenges related to horizontal curve radius, super elevation deficiencies, recurring flooding, and the inability to safely install a right turn lane. Madam Speaker, I was speaking to a member for Kalani yesterday, and we were speaking about the history of this road. Just to give some history on the project, the realignment was first proposed in the 1960s, and part of the required land was acquired in 1970 from the Caves Company. However, the works were never undertaken. Then, the project was later incorporated into Road Corridor 19 under the new Providence Road Improvement Project under the former Ingram administration. A 2001 contract with Associated Asphalt was terminated in 2013 due to bankruptcy, and the works were subsequently excluded from the completion contract executed with JCCC of Argentina. This proposal aims to advance the implementation of long-delayed works under a revised delivery arrangement. During the initial contract, Madam Speaker, the government was absorbing the full cost of the road alignment in 2001. In its current form, the stretch of West Bay Street cannot safely accommodate the projected traffic movements for the proposed development. Therefore, new roadway design and full realignment is required in the interest of public safety, traffic efficiency, and pedestrian protection. So just to speak to a few key facts of the Rock Point Road project. The works are being proposed in collaboration between the Ministry of Works and Family Island Affairs and Vacus Limited. The developer, Vacus Limited, is fully responsible for all costs associated with road design, road construction, utility relocation, drainage improvements. Also, in reference to the land swap, the government receives 44,639 square feet compared to Vacus, who will be exchanging 34,123 square feet. The government of the Bahamas is only responsible for providing the street lighting and the utility materials in regards to water and sewage. The realignment is entirely in the public interest, and I think the member for Kalani would agree that it enhances road safety and traffic flow, flood resilience, and emergency response access. There have been times that ambulances couldn't pass on the road because of cost issues and had to go around other areas of New Providence during flooding. This road realignment, another point I'd like to make, is that this road realignment also allows for easier access to the beach. As a part of the agreement for the infrastructural improvement is to provide a parking area right there in front of the beach. So you know a lot of times persons can't utilize the beach because there's not enough parking, so that is one of the components of the agreement. And the area is also known as a no-build zone. So nothing can be built up to the wall headed on the west side of the road improvement project. Madam Speaker, this resolution is about safety first. It's about safer right turns, reduce collision points, flood-resilient road design, improve pedestrian protection, and future proofing for West Bay Street. No government should ever compromise on public road safety. Madam Speaker, this resolution also fits into a bigger national road and flood mitigation strategy. And while this resolution addresses one specific problem site, I will reiterate that the aggressive nationwide road improvement thrust continues under the Ministry of Works and Family Island Affairs. The ministry has completed, number 4, Pinewood. You can borrow those for 2 minutes. The Ministry of Works has completed national assessments for New Providence, where we have Nassau flood mitigation proposals, and as well as a quick wins short report. So these are quick wins to target specifically areas such as Pinewood, Ridgeland Park West, and other areas throughout New Providence. So we have a full map of flood-prone areas throughout New Providence. And we went even further, and this took us about a year to develop this, went even further that we are able to specify and target quick win areas to help to mitigate some of the flooding throughout New Providence. A few weeks ago, we commenced work on the Coral Harbor Road and Flood Mitigation Project, and we are also approved for the IDB climate loan, which would help to mitigate flooding in Pinewood as well as downtown. That would be a part of the Baja Mix restructuring loan as well. Madam Speaker, when you look at Family Island Road paving, we also look at a broader push to revitalize Family Islands, where we're creating jobs and empowering Bamians and nation building. And from the ministry's October 2025 road works report, we have paved miles and miles of road across this country. And no, we are not done yet. In South Andros, we are about to pave 8 miles of road. We have already paved 2. In Barry Island, 17 miles of road. That work is ongoing. South Bimini, 3.5 miles of road. Long Island, we have signed a contract to pave 18 miles of road with a local contractor, Rowdy Boys Construction. Eleuthera, we paved over 25 miles of road. Axuma, 16 miles has already been completed. We're about to start phase 2 on the Axuma Road project. Crooked Island, 2 miles. Cat Island, we have 10 miles and work ongoing. Abaco, we paved 2 communities, Central Pines and Pelican Shores. And these are just a few of the road improvement projects throughout the Family Islands, Madam Speaker. Here in the capital, Joe Farrington Road paving is now underway, following the successful completion of Water and Sewage Corporation's underground water main upgrades, which will now deliver better water pressure, improved water quality, and longer-lasting road surfaces. So in a short while, the residents of eastern New Providence will be able to traverse along Joe Farrington Road corridor with a smooth, modern road, which has been long awaiting. Madam Speaker, since the start of this road paving cycle, we've already paved almost 32 miles of roadway throughout New Providence, reflecting one of the most aggressive road improvement projects in recent years. Madam Speaker, the reason I speak about this is to speak of the Ministry of Works' larger program for road improvements throughout New Providence. And a part of that is drainage, new roads, lighting, and also we have issues with a lot of potholes in New Providence. And one of the reasons is identifying them. So the ministry has been working and testing over the past 6 months an app called See, Click, Fix. So in a few weeks, we're going to launch this app, Madam Speaker. We've been beta testing it for 6 months. And citizens can now help direct repairs. So the government has modernized how the public interest works and helps with road repairs throughout New Providence. So this app can report not just potholes, but it can flag drainage issues, it can submit road hazard photos, and not only that, you track service of what the Ministry of Works provides to the public. So you can see from whence a pothole or road or flooding was reported, so you don't report it to just a minister or to a WhatsApp group. This is a map where you can tag the location and you can see how long, so you hold the ministry accountable for how quick they respond to the complaints by the public. This app shows how the ministry is becoming a people-powered infrastructure management where citizens help to prioritize repairs in real time. Madam Speaker, the big picture of today's resolution doesn't stand alone. It fits into the safer roads, smarter development, utility first before paving, technology-driven reporting, and an island-by-island national road renewal strategy. Madam Speaker, I said I wasn't going to be long, so I don't think that this is controversial. I think this is needed. I think this is in the better interest of the people of New Providence, especially those that drive along that road. It is necessary. It is responsible. It is developer-funded. It is focused on safety and legally sound. So therefore, in 12 short minutes, Madam Speaker, I commend this resolution to the House and urge my colleagues to support the same in interest of public safety, national infrastructure advancement. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Is there a seconder? The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for South and Central Andros.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand on behalf of the great people of Central, South Andros, and Mangrove Key, but also the persons that traverse the West every day and live in that area, to second what my colleague from Central and South Andros, South Eleuthera, explained in detail. And like him, I'll be real short, Madam Speaker, but it's to make sure that the memorandum of understanding that was executed between the Ministry of Public Works and Family Island Affairs and VACIS Limited that gives a portion of West Bay Street situated within the area that is called Rock Point Project Site. And it is needed in order to enhance the road users and pedestrians who use that West Bay Street, especially when it rains, Madam Speaker. They have to be diverted into a residential area. So this is necessary, and also, Madam Speaker, with that, I second and support the passing of this resolution. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member for Central and South Eleuthera, could you please put the motion for the resolution on the floor? That's it.
Madam Speaker, whereas the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, herein referred to as the Treasurer, a corporate sole established under Section 4, subsection 1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, Chapter 23, Revised Statute Law of the Bahamas 2000, hereinafter referred to as Act, is seized in fee simple in possession of the hereditaments, more particularly described in the schedules hereto, hereinafter referred to as the said hereditaments. Now, therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to Section 53A of the Act and in consideration of the MOU entered into by the government, this House approves a land exchange by the Treasurer conveys the lands in the first schedule to VACIS, and VACIS conveys the lands in the second schedule to the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Honourable Member. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be agreed. Whereas the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, hereinafter referred to as the Treasurer, a corporation sole established under Section 4.1 of the Ministry of Finance Act, Chapter 23, Revised Statute Law of the Bahamas 2000, hereinafter referred to as Act, is seized in fee simple in possession of the hereditaments, more particularly described in the schedules hereto, hereinafter referred to as the said hereditaments. Now, therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to Section 53A of the Act, and in consideration of the MOU entered into by the government, this House approves the land exchange by which the Treasurer conveys the lands in the first schedule of VACIS to VACIS, and VACIS conveys the lands in the second schedule to the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for St. Anne's.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, members of the public, colleagues in the House, we're one day away from our Christmas break, and it seems like the intent is to make today's debate on this resolution brief. I'm likely to be brief as well, Madam Speaker, following in line with the good member for Central and South Eleuthero, as he's done. I had difficulty satisfying myself that I could properly prepare for debate on this resolution because the resolution circulated in the House refers to a plan attached that is colored to show who is getting what, and the plans that we received were in black and white. And it's only a moment ago when I directly requested a color copy from the clerk that I received a color copy. So as I give my contribution, I'm going to be going through some of what I see here. I'm familiar with this parcel of land, as I think are members of most of the residents of New Providence. In my opinion, this is a historical site, even though it's privately owned land. The rock wall you see included in some of the images displayed in the Honorable House by the member for Central and South Eleuthero, that is the rock wall of the property that is part of one of the first James Bond movies that I would have watched as a child. I think it was Thunderbolt, if I'm getting it correct, where somebody ended up falling into a sea pool and was eaten by sharks. So as a Bahamian, when this plan goes ahead, I'll no longer be able to drive past that historical site. I'll no longer be able to pull on the childhood memories, the great glory of our nation in cinematic history. But those persons that still fail to realize you can't drive a motor vehicle, a car through water, they at least will be benefited from the fact that the way this new road layout appears to be drawn, they can have the benefit of driving down a road without becoming submerged. Now, Madam Speaker, this plan depicts a lot of blue in it, and that's privately owned land. It's identified as land belonging to the entity, the developer, that we understand is working with us. But it goes so far on the western side. So this is, on the map, this is the western side. As you come around further, you would get to Sapodillas. Even further down the road, you'd get to Travelers Rest, or the old Travelers Rest. As an attorney, Madam Speaker, a bit confused as to why the yellow, which is to be our new road layout, why it doesn't go all the way to connect with the existing roadway, Madam Speaker. You'll see that part of the verge, at least I'm assuming that would be the verge on the northern side. Part of the verge doesn't go as far as the end of the blue property line, and it doesn't fit neatly over the brown existing property road line. I'm also looking at this map, Madam Speaker, and I'm recognizing, I'm remembering the issues that the nation's continuously had with beach access and rights to the sea, rights along the coastline up to the mean high water mark. Now, Madam Speaker, you'll notice that from this plan, just on the very edge of the eastern end of the yellow roadway, there is a gap between the plot lines of two parcels of land on the water. And that gap, in my opinion, Yeah, and the blue is not though, right? Yeah, but it's not Bahamian owned. And, well, it's not publicly owned. And the yellow doesn't come over the entirety of it. It'll be my recommendation that if you're going to have that yellow come beyond the brown, that you just continue the yellow to the length of the brown so that there isn't anything cut off. The plan that I was pointing out, the point that I was making, Madam Speaker, is that there is a space between two parcels on the sea, which, as a real estate attorney with some familiarity with property plans, would indicate to me that this is likely a beach access, Madam Speaker. And it would be interesting to know whether the government had considered whether that beach access there is open and accessible to members of the public, and whether, once they access that beach access, whether they can go east and west along the beach up to the high water mark without interruption. Basically, free use to traverse the beach to the east and the west. I know that there's a massive rock pile of man-made, man-placed boulders on this beach. So if we're going to be having a beach access and Bahamians, once they access the beach, are allowed to traverse up to the mean high water mark, are they going to be able to traverse without interruption, or do they have to get rock climbing gear on to get over that man-placed boulder of rocks? Madam Speaker, generally, it's important to keep in mind beach access whenever we're being asked to do something for developers. Let's do something for the people. I appreciate that we are getting a new location for the road. We're exchanging it essentially, and both parties to this agreement, this resolution, will benefit. Bahamians will benefit by not having to drive through heightened water during the rainy season, and the property owner has a larger tract now to develop. What they do with their property, if the government determines that that's the best interest for the Bahamas, that's their right. I don't see much objection to it now that I know where the yellow road line is. I would have strongly objected to this, I think, or I would have strongly objected to it if we were being asked to use the Sea Beach Drive subdivision roads. That's Shakespeare Drive right next to Sun Fun Resort, and then continue down that neighborhood road. But where this yellow road is placed is not too far away from the existing game spawn property. And I did hear the Minister for Works, Family and Affairs, Central South Eleuthera, say that there would be no development. It's a no development zone on the west of the wall by the existing used beach. Yeah, that blue there. But the developer is going to be able to now build from the northern side of the yellow roadway all the way to the sea. That's correct. There's no restriction on the development use of what now becomes a larger. Yeah, but there's no restriction on that. So, you know, this is a time when I would still ask the Ministry of Works to look into that beach access to ensure that they're satisfied that Bahamians using that beach access can traverse east and west along the high water mark without obstruction. And along with my party leader, I'm going to be voting, and colleagues, I'm going to be voting in support of this resolution when we get to that. But just so that I can understand also, because it was mentioned by Central and South Eleuthera, where is the additional parking going to be provided? Is it on which side of the yellow road layout will it be?
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Central and South
Right here on the
Eleuthera.
side, before when the road turns, it turns just before the wall. So you'll see that it deepens in here. So where you see these, you see the red lines on the yellow? Yeah, so, right. The parking is there now, but it's kind of short. So now, all of this will be extra parking. So more vehicles, if you notice, kind of narrow towards the west side before the road, but because the road doesn't turn yet. So once the road turns, you'll start to see more parking right in here. You'll have extensive parking. Understand what I mean?
Yeah, I understand there. Thank you, yeah. That was clear. Okay, then just the final point. As we come here, we all can't afford to live on the coastline, but we should not lose sight of the coastline where we currently have the opportunity to see the beauty of the sea. Is any of this section basically before the point going to be obstructed? Is that what you're saying? That's a no-build zone?
So I want to reiterate the point that I agree with St. Anne's in reference to being able to see the coast here when you drive by. So all of that, unless a car is parked there, but there's a no-build zone all the way up to the wall.
Okay.
So there's no structure could be built there anyhow according to town planning and what was already put in place. So all of that, once you're driving by, you'll still have access to be able to see on the water as you drive past. And you'll be able to park, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for those clarifying remarks. I hope the public is satisfied with it. The only issue that I have, and something that we can touch now while we're still on topic, is this beach access, Madam Speaker. Pay attention to what's happening on Paradise Island. You've had a lot of persons on social media recently asking why is the eastern beach access gate being closed, why are persons being locked out. We have the ability to exercise eminent domain, so we have to determine what policy are we going to be adopting with regard to access to Paradise Island Beach and all, in my opinion, of the primary beaches in New Providence. And when I say primary, all of the currently Crown land beaches, keep those for Bahamians, but all of the privately owned beaches, such as you'll find Paradise Island being the best in Nassau. You'll find Bahamar. You'll find persons that live out at South Ocean that have enjoyed beach access in the Divvy, in the area of the former Divvy Resort. You'll find persons that are keen on South Ocean, the southern side of New Providence, in Adelaide, South Beach. Those beach accesses should remain. And Madam Speaker, I think there's need for greater discussion generally about our land use in the country, and I don't know that it's right. I know that this resolution has piggybacked in accomplishments of this administration for works in family islands, but when I drive during the days of the by-election, Sir Marlo Butler Highway, which has the Coca-Cola bottling company, half of that highway was without lights. It's recently received lights. But the drain covers along Sir Milo in the area of Coca-Cola are missing a number of the covers. Anybody's wheel that goes in there, then they're going to get anchored right in. And when the Honourable Member for Fort Charlotte was Minister of Works, he had made pronouncements in the House that there would be the redevelopment of the Gladstone Road gateway with, I think, 2 more lanes added. And there hasn't really been been anything visible recently with the Gladstone Road development, but persons get backed up on Gladstone Road when work finishes and when they're trying to get to work on time. So if that's still on the agenda, then I think that the people would like to hear more about why there's been such delay. With those comments, Madam Speaker, I thank you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. This will be 3 days in a row, almost as exciting as the 12 days of Christmas. And so until then, I'll be here close by. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member Asmini. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Kalani.
Hey, boys. Mark.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I just want to point out again problems that we face here in the West. This road is, during rainy season, almost completely underwater and impassable. And that was a problem that was recognized even under the Ingham administration when we were doing the road development program that the minister referred to. And this was a part of the program or project to be embarked upon. Madam Speaker, as you can see, this is located in the Kalani constituency, causes great problems with flooding and safety issues. Safety issues. On the southern side of the road, those that are not familiar with the area invariably would try to avoid as much of the water as possible. And on the southern side of the road, the land is quite soft and a ditch is also there. And it was not unusual for many vehicles to fall within the ditch and had to be removed by wrecker and other such facilities. This diversion with now realignment would now correct it, and there were some issues that we would have been concerned about. Obviously, the entire area experiences flooding, and I would hope as the government embark on this project, before they do it, and I think the minister alluded to it, we do a flow study, so that it would include not only that area but the Sea Beach area also, because that is a serious issue that we're facing. I'm happy to hear that we would have proper lighting introduced, as that is necessary to minimize crime, because as development occur, then crime obviously would increase. But we'd be very concerned about what type of development is going there, because we'd be concerned especially with noise pollution. And I would hope that we would have multiple of town meetings so that the residents can have their input to deal with it. I was more than happy to hear the minister mentioning that there'd be a no-build zone or no-build area on the western part of the property, because today many residents of the Kalani constituency and from other areas utilize that spot for viewing of the beach, taking pictures. Individuals at low tide would even go on the beach and the rocky points and take pictures, wedding pictures, etc., parties. So it's a very important area that is utilized by the residents and many others. And I'm happy to hear that that would be declared a no-build zone, and extra parking would be made available so that individuals can park and continue to observe the beauty of the beach and the sunlight, etc. Madam Speaker, I note with the road plan that this would go directly through the news, the signage that my association had put up, "Welcome to Sea Beach." So I would hope that the government would include, we have a bad policy of destroying and not replacing. So with this development, our sign that was put up by us, Welcome to Sea Beach, would be removed. So I would hope that you would put an even better one than is there now. But it must be replaced. But, Madam Speaker, the issue of beach access is very, very important. And that's why I'm so happy to hear that that particular point would remain to be utilized by the residents and visitors alike. During my tenure, we had done a complete master plan survey of all the beach access in New Providence. That plan exists, and I would urge the government to, since governments are supposed to be continuous, I would urge the government to obtain a copy of that plan so that we can open all of those areas that have been closed off, which are official beach access, because Bahamians must have access to the beach for multiple reasons. As you can see, the problems we're experiencing now with the Goodman Bay beach access. Madam Speaker, what many people may not know, at present, approximately half, Goodman's Bay is a large open area extending from the hotel heading east and a hotel on the western side. But what has been happening, half of the beach facility is now being utilized by the tourists, guests of the cruise ships, etc. And there are multiple umbrellas, chairs, etc. And therefore, if this is not seriously looked at, we're going to run into the same problems that they have in Paradise Island. So at this point, half of Goodman's Bay during the day may not necessarily be available to the residents because it's all utilized as a commercial entity with umbrellas, chairs, etc. for guests from the cruise ship. Now, I want individuals to take note that Spain had a similar problem with multiple, as tourist numbers increase, their parks and other cultural facilities were overutilized by the tourists. As a result of that, Spain had to close segments of its cultural centers, parks, etc., to limit the number of tourists utilizing the facility so that the guests, not the guests, so that the residents would have access to their own facilities. If we don't take this matter seriously, Madam Speaker, the trend we're going is in a year or two, Goodman's Bay would not be available to us, the locals. Half is already gone, commercialized, whether approved or not, I cannot say. But with the trend, the remaining half will be utilized or taken away from us within the next year or two, which means that Goodman's Bay will no longer be a facility for the local Bahamians to use. And yes, we welcome tourists, just like any other country around the world, but at the same time, we must not compromise our quality of life for our guests. And I ask the minister to be very careful. It's a delicate situation, but we must strike a balance and protect our own. And I would urge the government to look at the map and open all of those access roadways to the beaches for Bahamians. What many of the individuals who are utilizing our access know that that area does not belong to them. And rather than putting brick walls across the access, what they would do is normally put wooden fence or picket fence, knowing that at any particular time, government may come, move in, and subsequently move the fence. But the map is completed. We have completed the map. Some individuals would ask the question, well, you were in power, you've done the map, why didn't you open the access? We had many challenges, and of course the map was a long, tedious process. It had to be done, but it's now completed. So let's complete the process so that the Bahamians would have access to beach. But Madam Speaker, I would urge the ministry that there are certain things that we would be looking forward to. If you are putting in a new roadway, then the Sea Beach area need to be included also. Our road works, we are a pothole, conglomerate of potholes within the area, and this would be a great opportunity not only to do the flood flow studies, but it would be a great opportunity to put in new roadway, not only on the new road itself, but also within the Sea Beach area. And we would be happy to participate in any town meeting moving forward so that we would have our input as to what type of facility would go there, because we would be more concerned, especially with noise and rodent pollution. As you know, with Sun Fund, we had great challenges in the past with rodent, and that matter is under control now, and we would not want to go through that process again. But, Madam Speaker, with those few words, Kalani supports the resolution.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Asmini? The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Exumas and Raglan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to reaffirm the government's acknowledgement and support of the right of beach access for Bahamians all across the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The Goodman's Bay is managed by Beaches and Parks, and we have already had the conversation of no further expansion. The beach chairs and umbrellas that's operated at that site are operated by Bahamian vendors who are seeking to benefit as a result of the growth in tourism. And I agree that there has to be balance, and therefore we have asked them not to expand those enterprises further to ensure that local Bahamians would have an opportunity to comfortably access public beach at Goodman's Bay. I've engaged as the Member of Parliament for Exumas and Ragged Island with the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Local Government to ensure that all across the island of Exuma that we properly mark out and acquire land where necessary to ensure beach access for the future. I think this is a balance that has to be undertaken. With growth, we must ensure that we continue to maintain access for the Bahamian people. So this is something that I fundamentally agree with, and I want to thank the member for Kalani for raising the issue. I end my contribution there, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member Asmini. The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Kalani.
Madam Speaker, I'm happy to hear that the member is quite aware of the problem and is dealing with the issue. And nobody would want to stop growth and development, especially small businessmen over there. But the one thing I would request, we must be very careful not to allow them to put permanent structure. Once permanent structure goes there, then only Christ can move it afterward.
Asmini? The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Marco City.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I wish to thank Almighty God for this rare opportunity to represent the people of Marco City in our Parliament and to say to them how much I appreciate them and I thank them for the confidence they have reposed in me and the team that assists in us carrying out works on your behalf. I wish to say to residents of Marco City, we welcome all of the children and their parents, of course, this coming Saturday on Moon McPhee Park, as we continue a tradition that we have been carrying out now from, I believe it's 2016 or thereabout, holding a Christmas event, but also this year, like last year, seeking to also cater to the parents who come out with their children as well, to prepare a Christmas meal for them as well, and to say how much we appreciate them. We are continuing our grocery distribution, continuation from our Thanksgiving event where we hosted, I believe, somewhere around 160 senior citizens in the constituency. We have been doing this from Thanksgiving lunch, where we break bread together as a community since 2016, and then we switched to focusing in on seniors, and we've prepared some 500 grocery packages to deliver, and we just want to say to all of the residents, we wish to continue a close relationship with all of the senior citizens in Marco City, like the rest of the community, but especially for those who have made tremendous contribution for decades and on whose shoulders we stand. Transportation for seniors remain available for persons who are going to pay bills, going to the clinic, who need transportation for any reason. We remain available, and I want to thank the team who again, assist in making all of this happen. I'm grateful to the Marco City team, made up of persons from all walks of life, persons primarily Free National Movement supporters, but also persons who have supported the Progressive Liberal Party and independents. We are grateful to people who simply contribute to the community work that we do, because they recognize at the end of the day, when we offer service to the community, we're not watching colors. We are watching the challenges that our people face, the opportunities that they're trying to seize, and then we're doing our part to make sure we help them face those challenges and seize those opportunities. And so I want to say thank you to all of the persons who continue to undergird the work that we do on behalf of residents. We love you, and God bless the work that you continue to do. Madam Speaker, let me begin by reiterating what my colleague from the great constituency of St. Anne's has indicated. We do support this resolution today, and we wish, Madam Speaker, to again comment on it in the broader context of a number of important issues related to land use and the importance of public-private partnerships and the importance of us being proactive in town planning exercises. This initiative obviously straddles multiple administrations, Madam Speaker. And so we support this resolution, and as the Minister indicated, Madam Speaker, it's been a long time coming. This resolution involves, among other things, moving a public access road and dealing with privately owned land for development. On the surface, it may seem to be a routine exercise, but as we step into the next 50 years of independence, I submit that having a clear and transparent land use plan for our country is essential. Madam Speaker, it is important for us as we move forward to have clear strategic plans for the development of each of our islands, and on each of those islands to have a vision for what will define those islands and what will generate economic activities to sustain the populations that exist. It is this approach, Madam Speaker, that will help us guard against the sad and unfortunate rural-urban drift. Bahamians moving from the land of their birth, in many cases, from family islands to New Providence, and previously going to Grand Bahama or Abaco because they lacked opportunity in their particular island. Madam Speaker, the failure to have even as best possible development across the Commonwealth of the Bahamas has not only resulted in the movement of our people from family islands to the urban centers, but it has in fact caused many young people who have gone off to school make a decision not to return because of the scarcity of opportunities once they return. The difficulty of doing business in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas that must be dramatically improved, and because they often believe that you have to be politically connected if you are to get in and to have upward mobility. these kinds of notions that our young people hold and others, we must change. And we must not change by seeking to convince them that their eyes and feelings are failing them. We must change by correcting, Madam Speaker, the culture that tells them, again, they must be connected. The culture that, again, restricts their upward mobility, Madam Speaker. And so today we discuss this resolution in the context of carefully planning for the future of this country, Madam Speaker. For that reason, again, our team supports, Madam Speaker, the National Development Plan, and we believe that far more Bahamians have participated in putting together the National Development Plan than have participated in the Blueprint for Change or any manifesto by our organization or any other. And so what we put forward as our platform will simply be a microcosm, an aspect of how we will go about helping the country to achieve that National Development Plan. And so we salute those persons who have worked on the National Development Plan, Madam Speaker. Bahamians should not be finding out after the fact what the plan is for their communities. They have a right to know from the beginning whether the land is being used for public housing, like, for example, Renaissance, for projects like that in the Carmichael Village, or a major resort like the Grand Lucayan. Bahamians have a right to know. Both of these developments I just mentioned, Madam Speaker, have raised important questions. In the case of the Carmichael Village, millions in public funds were illegally loaned to a company that could not be properly identified, Madam Speaker, for months. And the law is clear on why. The Public Debt Management Act of 2021 clearly indicates that the Minister of Finance shall be the sole borrowing agent for the government and shall borrow money in accordance with this act. This authority, Madam Speaker, cannot be delegated to any other person. And yet, the former Minister of Housing, the member for Elizabeth, borrowed the money, a breach of the law. We call the company Phantom, Madam Speaker, because there was no clear record of who the directors were, how much had been spent, or what contracts had been awarded. We did, Madam Speaker, a company search at the beginning of this year and was left scratching our heads with more questions than answers. Madam Speaker, with the Grand Lucayan, Bahamians were told the property had been sold, but no money has been seen. No works have been started, and vendors and workers are still waiting for answers. The pattern is the same. This government promises big things that go on, they say, but they keep the public in the dark, over-promising, under-delivering. That is why, even as we support this resolution, we are calling for full transparency in every public land deal. This is common sense, Madam Speaker. When something involves the public has a right to know. The Bahamian people deserve to know who is involved, how much is being spent, and how does it benefit them. I listened, like many others, carefully to the Minister of Housing yesterday. He finally found his voice. Couldn't find it when we were asking him immigration questions. Thank God, pressure we thought would have caused him to be fired or resign, but he ended up in housing. So thank God, in this case, he found his voice after months of us talking about the Carmichael Village Development Project. It was nice, long story, but it was short on facts. He has so much more explaining to do, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, through you, I want to remind the Bahamian people of what some of those facts are, to provide a fuller, a more complete picture, to explain why, after months of pressure from the Free National Movement, the government answers raise even more questions than before. Madam Speaker, we know they are not given to answering questions, Madam Speaker. In this House, they duck that second Wednesday of the month as often as they can, Madam Speaker. The government's narrative on the Carmichael Village is incomplete, and they know it. Yesterday, the minister spoke confidently about delivery at Renaissance at Carmichael Village, as if this progress sprang to life only after September 2021. But he left out a few important facts, Madam Speaker. He didn't bother to go in detail that a previous F&M administration was involved in the groundwork for the subdivision, where in terms of the roads having been constructed, the drainage, the design work, the subdivision mapping, and the preparation for service lots, Madam Speaker. And in May 2022, under this government, they signed a $20 million loan agreement with, again, two lending institutions to fund the construction of homes and infrastructure at Carmichael Village. Madam Speaker, I remember vividly when I had accused them of having the minister, again, sign off on this loan, as she represented they did, a huddle between the luminaries on that side, inclusive of KCs and others, to, Madam Speaker, reinforce her claim that she had the ability and the right to borrow this $20 million. We understood, Madam Speaker, that she was a corporate soul, but a corporate soul with no ability to borrow. And again, Madam Speaker, they doubled down on their position each time we raise it. Madam Speaker, homes did not suddenly start rising from empty field. There was momentum, there was infrastructure, and there was financing architecture already in motion. The minister's version of events conveniently omits this foundation, but they moved the process along, Madam Speaker, no problems there. The problem does arise when we look at the funding for the project, how it was executed, and all that followed. Madam Speaker, or much of what followed, because for every Bahamian that gets a home, we applaud that effort and we support those Bahamians. But this administration, even when it has a good thing it could do, or starts out to do, the culture of the organization creeps in and just muck it up, Madam Speaker. You see, Madam Speaker, that selective storytelling by the minister is only the beginning. Because when we look beyond his speech and we look at the records, we find a real problem. A government that hides what it should reveal, delays what it should disclose, hides what it thinks damages it, and delays what the public has a right to know, Madam Speaker. This issue before us is one of transparency, and they don't understand why their trust capital continues to diminish. We must be able to trust our government, that they know the law and they are following it, that they say one thing and they actually mean it and deliver on it. This administration has resisted answering the questions for months. The country knows that the F&M has been asking one question after another about who are the board of directors of this company, Madam Speaker. Is it in good standing? On July 8, Madam Speaker, I wrote my first formal letter to the Prime Minister. In that letter, I asked the Prime Minister to disclose when the Carmichael Village Project Development Company was formed. Who are the directors? Where is it registered? Whether it held a valid business license or VAT registration, and the terms of the $10 million loan recorded in the debt bulletin, Madam Speaker. These questions were later read into the Senate by Senator Darren Henfield. Madam Speaker, we did not get an answer from the Prime Minister. And what is interesting, Madam Speaker, for the benefit of the public, all of these things I ask about, Madam Speaker, when these things are missing in ordinary Bahamian businesses, businesses through Key West Street, the business owned by Mr. Jones, who lives in Yellow Elder, or Sister Stubbs, who live in Golden Isles, when they do not have the things that the law requires, their company can't function. But the government, who should be the example, the standard by which all other organizations are judged in this country, failed to answer the questions on whether they were in good standing on these very matters that they have penalized businesses on. But I digressed. In July, Madam Speaker, and August, my colleagues in both chambers pressed the government for clarity on this subject. They deferred, delayed, or simply ignored all of the questions. I stated repeatedly that the Carmichael Village Project Development Company, again, we couldn't find it at the time in the Registrar General's database. Okay, maybe we hit the wrong keys. Okay, let's move on for that. We couldn't find the list of directors, Madam Speaker. I want to understand how that could have possibly happened. They didn't supply those. They had a chance yesterday. Or the business license, or the legal filings, Madam Speaker, or we didn't know which office, law office they were registered in. And so, Madam Speaker, they did not speak to this issue, even though this concern was widely carried, Madam Speaker, in the media, and of course, the government remained silent. Then 2 weeks ago, after the latest public debt statistical bulletin suggested that there was an increase, Madam Speaker, we had the exposure. The exposure when we read the public debt statistical bulletin says beyond the initial $10 million that the government made available, there was another tranche, Madam Speaker, that was made available. Again, I wrote the Prime Minister a new letter with additional questions. Still, Madam Speaker, to date, even after the minister spoke yesterday, said he answered the question, aided and abetted by the member for Freetown, who tried to, again, talk about a very specific assertion that was made, that was answered. Madam Speaker, the reality is we ask a series of questions, and the member, in a lengthy communication, refused to answer all of those questions, Madam Speaker, and we know why. And so today, still, $20, $30, $40 million later, Madam Speaker, $40 million that could make sure that there's an ambulance so that our family members in family islands could get, again, to the doctor or to the airport, or fire trucks that can help us with the fear that many Bahamians feel because, again, of these wildfires, or medicines that we can't find some cases in the pharmacy that relatives of ours and others, constituents, need desperately. $40 million later, still there's no audited accounts, no incorporated documents, no contracts table, no explanation of how much taxpayers' money have actually been advanced and how much of it is in the ground in that particular project. Madam Speaker, under months of pressure, after ignoring questions in the House, in the media, the minister then tells us, don't worry, the company is real. The loaner was repaid. Everything is traceable. Yes, after the election, we'll demonstrate how right he is, Madam Speaker. We'll trace every penny to see where it went, and we will disclose it to the public, Madam Speaker. But he tabled nothing. For all that bluster, for all that theatrics, Madam Speaker, he tabled nothing. And until documents are produced, assertions are not proof, Madam Speaker. They are evasions, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, let's talk about money. Contradiction one, $20 million loan. The minister says $20 million loan has been repaid in full. If so, we expect a loan satisfaction document, a public confirmation, Madam Speaker, of extinguishment. Has it been satisfied? Well, we know that ain't likely to come, Madam Speaker, but it'd be nice to see. But there are big issues in that. And they should clarify how the repayment was funded. We received none of these. Contradiction two, the $10 million Treasury loan. Meanwhile, the public debt statistical bulletin shows $10 million loan from Treasury to this same Carmichael entity, an entity that the government repeatedly refused to document. A government addicted to PR would not document this good thing that they're doing. Madam Speaker, what I find curious is $20 million borrowed and must be repaid in less than 4 months. I would love to see that term agreement, eh? You get it? 2022, and boy, by 2025, it becomes due. That's a fascinating thing. But here is what we are concerned about. If a minister legally cannot borrow money and they borrow it, they broke the law, Madam Speaker. And any borrowing should be preceded by, what should happen before, is a borrowing resolution. If there's no borrowing resolution and they busy borrowing, it sounds to me, Madam Speaker, like they have broken the law. They've done something illegal, Madam Speaker. They've done something inappropriate, unethical, corrupt, Madam Speaker. I know you don't like that word, Madam Speaker, but the facts, Madam Speaker, are what they are.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Exeter.
City, that the word corrupt is offensive. It ought not to be used in this place and should not be used by him, of all people, Madam Speaker.
Thank you,
I
honourable member.
ask that he withdraw it, or that if he refuses, that you have it expunged, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to put a question to the member for Exuma and take my seat just to hear his response. If someone breaks the law, yes, breaks, but I think it's breaks.
Broke the law.
Yeah, if somebody broke the law, thank you, my brother. If somebody broke the law, is that a corrupt practice? I just want to understand that. And if yes.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Exeter.
I believe tomorrow is question time. Today, Madam Speaker, I ask that this be expunged.
Okay, so Madam Speaker, in light of the fact that he acknowledges, so unless I find it anyhow, Madam Speaker, the law was broken. Where are you from? Key West Street, Step Street, Fox Hill, Melbourne Road, Yellow Ella, Madam Speaker. That's a corrupt practice. If you break the law, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, the chair recognizes the honourable member for free time.
Madam Speaker, you know, I've said this before in this House. Marco City does not know the law. The people who advise him appear not to know the law. And what he ought to say, in his layman's view, this is a breach of the law.
Okay.
Now, that wouldn't mean that we're corrupt. That would mean that he is misinformed.
Yes. Thank you, honourable member. And so I will have corrupt, unethical, and corrupt.
Madam Speaker, the government, again, should have come with a borrowing resolution, Madam Speaker. $10 million should not come out of the Treasury, Madam Speaker, to repay, and then another $10 million apparently from housing. So $20 million to go and pay a loan. The question is, what happened to the first $20 million? Madam Speaker, is there $20 million or $30 or $40 million on Carmichael Road? Is it? I mean, outside of the by-election, apart from that, I mean, is there 20, 30 or 40 or 40 million, Madam Speaker, in that development? 20 million borrowed. Was it all used? And that 20 million, Madam Speaker, was to produce houses where the payments by those folks were going to pay back. Our brothers and sisters was going to pay back the loan. But insufficient homes were built, so they couldn't pay back, Madam Speaker, again, through their mortgage payments. The government had to step in again, part two of this most odious. It don't smell right, in other words, Madam Speaker. The dealing is they again, 20 million borrowed first illegally, in my layman's estimation, Madam Speaker, and then another 20 million to pay back the money, Madam Speaker. Something is deeply wrong, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, the question is the public now carrying both the cost of the original $20 million loan and the additional taxpayer-funded advances to the project? That's the question. Are we paying for the first $20 million, and are we also paying, Madam Speaker, for the additional taxpayer-funded advances, which we advise is now $20 million? That's the question. And good governance would have caused the member for Exuma and other colleagues to get up and say, here are what the facts are, Madam Speaker, and not wait as the member the member for Carmichael waited for such a long time until the consultants had come up with a carefully crafted script to come to the House to tell this country a litany of falsehoods, Madam Speaker, to try to put in context something that cannot be properly contextualized, Madam Speaker.
The chair
And
recognizes
so-
the honourable member for Freetown.
The member for Marco City is saying they don't know certain things. They've asked some questions that haven't been answered. To make an assertion of falsehood would mean that he has lied about the things he previously said. I know he advises politicians to be venomous and be very venomous in your attack. That's on page 83. But I think, you know, I have to sell some more of these books, Madam Speaker, just in case somebody don't really understand what this theatrics is all about in here. But to be honorable, you cannot say, I don't know what you've done, but I know what you've said you did isn't true. Because you can't say that if you don't know what I did. And he's claiming they don't know. So he cannot say that it's not true. I'll get the page by the time I close.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, the first part of what he said, Madam Speaker, I appreciate him helping the public to understand exactly what happened, that it is true. The public does not know what they did relative to this $40 million, Madam Speaker, and we believe that the way I characterize it is accurate, Madam Speaker. So we would like to see, Madam Speaker, the audited accounts. The contract list, Madam Speaker, was there procurement for who they gave the contract to, or was that another direct award? Since we didn't see it in the portal, Madam Speaker, we then know that they gave a direct award for the first $20 million, and now the second $20 million, I suspect, going the same way, Madam Speaker. What are the payment schedules, Madam Speaker? And so, again, this government is one that tells the public to trust us without doing sufficient to earn that trust. And Madam Speaker, and we are careful. We don't say that in every instance when this government makes a decision. We haven't dealt with sweeping generalizations in that way. We're saying this is an excellent example of what they do far too often. They make decisions that erode trust in persons whose word should count for something locally and internationally. And then they want to lecture us on being careful what we put in the international market. It is their actions that erode the credibility of our jurisdiction, not us. And so, Madam Speaker, let's be clear. Progress is welcome, but progress without transparency is very fragile. You know, Madam Speaker, like sometimes you hear a sad story from somebody and your heart wishes to go out to them and you start to feel it, and then you say, boy, let me hear the whole story just in case this thing goes south. That's how this administration is, Madam Speaker. And you hear their story, you have to wait and fact check them, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, we celebrate every family that has a housing opportunity, because everyone should own a piece of the rock. That's why we will unleash the most robust housing project that this country has ever seen once given an opportunity to govern, Madam Speaker, because we know it's doable. And without fear or favoritism, we'll make sure that the thousands of Bahamians who are backlogged, especially those on the front line, teachers, law enforcement, Madam Speaker, social workers and nurses who are fleeing because we can't find the wherewithal to increase a package, Madam Speaker, so that they can see a possibility of staying home, feeding their family, Madam Speaker, and working in the profession that they love, because others are outstripping us in terms of what they offer. So we must find creative ways, using our land to shave costs, Madam Speaker, of their single largest investment. That's what we will do that will be different. We'll learn from past mistakes we made and the litany of mistakes this crew, the side opposite is making, to make sure that we are better than our previous selves and better than what they are doing, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, we recognize that ribbon cutting is not the same as accountability, and they are good at ribbon cutting. They are good, Madam Speaker, of breaking ground, Madam Speaker, over and over, Madam Speaker. They're good at photo ops, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, we want to say, Madam Speaker, as I take my seat, that the Carmichael Village Development Project has not been answered, Madam Speaker, by and large, the vast majority of the questions have not been answered, and they should be ashamed and recognize their role. We also want to say, Madam Speaker, that the Grand Lucayan, no less than our member from Exuma and Ragged Islands, Madam Speaker, who we had such high hopes for when we recruited him for the FNM, Madam Speaker. We had high hopes, Madam Speaker. He got up on his feet in that party that they had, the heads of agreement signing, Madam Speaker, and said that the $120 million is in the bank.
That's right.
It's in the bank. And
Where's
Madam
the money?
Speaker, Madam
Where's
Speaker,
the money,
where
Exuma?
is the money?
Where's the
Or
money?
better still, which bank was he referring to?
Where is
the money? Where oversell and underdeliver, Madam Speaker. And as a result, Madam Speaker.
Your name stay the same?
Madam Speaker, as a result, Madam Speaker, of that enthusiasm that has not produced results for the people of Grand Bahama, there are some families today that are still not paid, Madam Speaker. There are some families, Madam Speaker, who don't know the next time they will go to work at the Grand Lucayan. They don't know who is actually responsible for paying them, Madam Speaker. And yet, Madam Speaker, this crew beat their chests and pat themselves on the back while people who have real bills, some serious responsibilities, are left wondering where the next penny is going to come from. And meanwhile, they live in large, Madam Speaker. Live in large, fly in first class, Madam Speaker, indicating that they have, that we're on a good wicket. The country is doing well. We have a surplus, but people can't get paid. Right. Madam Speaker, that's the problem with this administration. The demolition hasn't started. Money is not in the bank, Madam Speaker. No, you're all time up. You're all time up. And so, Madam Speaker, as I take my seat, I just want to say that we support the resolution. We support forward movement, public-private partnerships where terms are disclosed. Those are the things we support. What we do not support, Madam Speaker, is the government taking $40 million and pumping it into an area, Madam Speaker, into a project, Madam Speaker, where you cannot find 40 million in the ground. You can't find 30 or 20. Quite possibly you can't find 10, Madam Speaker. And they refuse to explain why, Madam Speaker, they took out, in my layman's estimation, a $20 million loan that was illegally acquired, and then put another $20 million, Madam Speaker, into the same project. We cannot understand why the member for Exuma would claim that $120 million is in the bank, and the Prime Minister supported him with that, Madam Speaker. We cannot understand it. But what we do understand, Madam Speaker, that their time will come shortly, Madam Speaker, when we'll be able to replace them and provide good governance for the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Madam Speaker. Marco City rests.
As many?
Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for free time.
Madam Speaker, I rise to close the debate on this resolution. And I almost forgot that they just got, the electorate just told them what they thought about them less than 2 weeks ago. Less than 2 weeks ago. If I were a psychiatrist, and I'm not, I would say it's delusional. And at the end of the day, if I hadn't read, if I had not read Politics, which is what Marco City and St. Barnabas are now engaged in, I might be baited. There are some movies, Man Without a City, Rolling Stone. At the end of the day, Madam Speaker, the public ought to be very clear. We started on a very simple proposition, which everyone on the other side agreed. A road has to be diverted for the good of the public. It happens to be a good deal because we get 30% more land than we give up, 30% more. We get a parking lot on the beach, so that's not an issue. But we've seen quite a performance out of Marco City about a lot of other things. And not only is he wrong in law, and as St. Anne's would say, he's wrong, but he's strong. And that's a way that we make fun of lawyers who don't know what they're doing. We say you're wrong, but you're strong. Because we have to say something good about you. And he is wrong, and he is strong. And that is good. And I can say that that's my legal opinion as one of His Majesty's counsel learned in the law.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Anne's.
I'm still looking at the plan, and when the member for Freetown said we're getting a parking lot on the beach, all of the beach, all of the coastline is still remaining in blue. So we may have use, but we're not getting the actual beach line to make it our own parking lot. That will always be land that will belong to someone other than the public.
Thank you, honorable member.
I really don't understand the point, but I guess St. Anne's does. Madam Speaker, and so in law, Marco City is wrong but strong. And seeing that I met him in this place, I was surprised that over the 4 years, he was wrong and strong about West Grand Bahama and Bimini, because back then, he talked about the people would speak, and then the people spoke and said, we don't want you, and said it emphatically. And if he were to say that, okay, that was early on, the people didn't really know you all yet, because he starts to paint this picture, and I will show where it comes from out this book. If he were able to say that, because we were in a little while then, you see. But he said, they ain't really know you yet. Well, we at the 4-year stage. And they pull out all the big guns, including former Prime Minister Ingram. He tried to ride on Papa's tails. But Madam Speaker, sorry, I withdraw that. I withdraw that, Madam Speaker. That's inappropriate. That's inappropriate. That's inappropriate. I would withdraw that. But in all of the lead up to that by-election, we've been in this house, and he has been telling the Bahamian people, you shouldn't want these fellas, you shouldn't want these fellas for all of these reasons. And they kept saying on the other side, they can be over here. And what actually happens, Madam Speaker, in their quest to come over here, they couldn't even go back there. They couldn't even go back there in Golden Isles. But they keep running this game. And I'm persuaded that the Bahamian people have seen through the politics. And just in case anybody don't know, it's a book available. Don't pirate it. Go buy it so Marco City could get his royalty.
Do you have hardback?
It's called Politics.
Do you have hardback yet?
And, Madam Speaker, I just noticed something. It's not written by him. It's revealed to him, like the Revelations.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Barnabas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I mean, it is incredible that this member continues to use a book to try to paint the member for Marco City, right, as engaging in politics. On the heels of that debate yesterday, as it relates to illegal immigration, this is the same member who one time ago said that illegal immigrants should be flogged. That same member there said that illegal immigrants should be flogged. But yesterday, he had a different tune. That's politics. That's politics there.
Yes, sir.
You know, Madam Speaker, that just didn't make any sense. That didn't make any sense. I heard you. I heard you. It just,
You notice you didn't answer the question about migrants being flogged. Illegal immigrants being flogged. Your words. Your words, member.
it still makes no sense, Madam Speaker. But, you know, and as I say, we have to wrap by a certain time. So let me be very quick, right? Buy the book so that you can read, so you can understand what you see. Because you will read on page 83, fabricate rage. You were kind of angry there, Sir Barnabas. And indignation, you're still mad. and indignation in the House or Senate for your opponents. Be angry, Sir Barnabas. You got to play into the script. That is what you're playing to. And then it says at 8, be belligerent and hostile. You were kind of belligerent there, St. Barnabas. This rage will convince thousands of people who are preoccupied with form rather than substance that you are not only sincere, but you're also right. And then the key one, the key item that always comes up. It says this, and this is just over the page 86. As a member of the opposition, you don't have a ministry, corporation, or board to run. So research the government to death. Ask them every conceivable question you can think of, whether it's important to the voters or not, but you got to say it's important to the voters. Don't get caught up in trying to provide a lot of answers, like why you can't put in the name of a company that everyone else puts up and it comes up. The government may be able to show how shallow the suggestions are since they have more facts, or because your track record was so dismal. Instead, ask a lot of questions. This is easier. Plus, it allows you to say in the media, House or Senate, over and over, we'll put crucial questions to the government which they have refused to answer, and then add that you don't believe they have answers. I think we heard that one. Then get extra devious and say they're hiding information. We heard that one. Say something like they're as transparent as a safety deposit box. It is nothing short of a cover-up. And the conclusion is questions will force the government to do your homework for you. If government turns out to be thorough and provide the public with every detail, take credit for the transparency. Now, Madam Speaker, I took the time to do that for one very simple reason. We may be very calm, but I take great offense to somebody without cause, evidence, or any basis asserting that I am corrupt. When I was a young man, that would have been fighting words, but I'm old now.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Marcus.
Madam Speaker, I cited the source that tells us who has the ability to borrow money, one. So we rely on, one, the Constitution, which tells us how monies are borrowed. We rely on the Public Debt Management Act, which we all passed. We also rely on the Public Management and Audit Act. And I cited those. So I want the public to know that the member for Freetown is talking nonsense when he says we accuse them of breaking the law in terms of how they manage the funding. And I cited he could go to the act. He loves to make the point, that he's absolutely brilliant. He is learned as compared to others. So he could go to the Constitution. He can go to the acts that I've cited and show where we are wrong about what we said. But to tell a tall tale, a story that we are accusing the government of what we said is illegal, which we then use a synonym for that as corrupt, is a different story. And he's flatly wrong, Madam Speaker.
That's a lot of indignation. But Madam Speaker, I never claimed to be the only counsel learned in the law. There are a bunch of them. Some of them who also affiliate themselves with the person opposite. I would be more impressed if I saw a considered legal argument from one of them. But we haven't. Over 4 years, we haven't. Not once. And so, Madam Speaker, it is very simple for us to say he is someone who is playing at politics. And so this is a resolution, and he will find a way to ask a bunch of questions, speak a lot of things that have no connection with logic, reason, or common sense, and a lot of it consistently, and then sit down. Lest the public thinks that this member or any other member on this side takes it lightly. We do not. We understand the desperation. We understand the politics. And for our blood pressure's sake, we smile and bear it. But the public should be under no illusion. This is all about politics. They should get the book and read it. This is all about a thirst for power. Madam Speaker, that having been said, I'm pleased to say they agree with this. And so I would move that the question be put on the resolution.
Thank you, Honourable Member. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be agreed. Whereas the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, hereinafter referred to as the Treasurer, a corporation sole established under Section 401 of the Ministry of Finance, Act Chapter 23, Revised Statute Law of the Bahamas 2000, hereinafter referred to as AC, is seized in fee simple in possession of the hereditaments more particularly described in the schedules hereto, hereinafter referred to as the said hereditaments. Now, therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to Section 53A of the Act, and in consideration of the MOU entered into by the government, this House approves the land exchange by which the Treasurer conveys the land in the first schedule to VACAS, and VACAS conveys the lands in the second schedule to the Treasurer of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The resolution is agreed. We will now revert back to the order of business. Member statements, appointment of select committees, instructions to select committee, discharge of select committees, notices for future meetings.
I renew all notices in the name of the government.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Renew all notices in the name of the opposition and looking forward to question time tomorrow, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Adjournment.
I move, Madam Speaker, that the House on its rising do adjourn to 10 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, the 10th of December. 10 a.m. Tomorrow, Wednesday, the 10th of December.
Thank you, Honourable Members. It has been moved and seconded that the House at its rising at Wednesday, 10th of December 2025 at 10 a.m. Yeah, I'm saying the right thing. At 10 a.m. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Final adjournment.
And I move that the House do adjourn to Wednesday, the 10th of December at 10 a.m.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Seconded? Thank you, Honorable Member. It has been moved.
Get Rashad.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that the House now stands adjourned to Wednesday, 10th December 2025 at 10 a.m.
All right.